All right, here we go. Last week, week 5. It's been a long journey for me. Your all's hearts may have been okay through most of this. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. It has been a journey. It's actually been a really interesting year. You know, we spent 4 weeks journeying through spiritual disciplines, and then we stepped into this series for the last 5 weeks now. And it has been just really an encouraging space for me. It's been something that I've had a chance to really look into my life, to look into how am I managing and handling the spiritual disciplines, the disciplines that God has set up for me. When it comes to prayer and fasting, when it comes to those serving others, those conversations we had over those 4 weeks. And then this here has just been something that, we see the video, there's some things that that's wrong. We shouldn't be in that space. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't do that. But for the most part, we sit in a space where a lot of things, a lot of sins, things we've talked about lying, we've talked about greed, we've talked about lust. We've talked about these things, gluttony. How can I forget gluttony? It's just this whole thing, this idea of where we sit and where we go, and we've prettied these things up, we've painted them into the right setting, and we step into this space, and we've lived this way to where just the church has gone, it's okay. Like, we've sat around with other Christians, and we go, I've got junk, you've got junk. Let's just all kind of have our junk together and then we'll be all right. But that's not what God's called us to at all. We're singing the songs there. His word is everlasting, yesterday, today, and forever. And I'm excited about that. And it's hard. It's not easy. And I don't think it's going to be easy today. But we're going to continue in that. And today we're stepping into busyness. I don't know about you, but when I walk down the street and I bump into people like, hey, how you doing? Oh, man, I'm good, just busy. Everybody you bump into, they've just got something going on. And it's just like, I've got so much I'm doing, so many things. I was talking to a parent last week, and I was asking them about their toddler, and they're like, they're good, they're just busy. I'm like, busy doing what? Like binging Bluey between naps and filling a diaper and eating a couple of times a day? How have we come to a place that we have made our kids that busy? But it really is that. It's just, oh man, they're keeping us hopping. It's always something, always on the go. I told Gary this morning I was cleaning up, and it was actually me and that did it, and I dropped a cracker, and I needed to vacuum up the cracker that I did not get in here and do during the week, but I came in here to vacuum that up and said, I'm going to do this really quick. And I was like, it has been so hard to try and remove, do this quickly, do this fast, do this busy, be this, because I get this done, I get this here. And that's the thing, is if you think about life, we have spent most of it trying to figure out a way to do things faster. Before the light bulb was invented, the average person slept 11 hours a day. I want you to think about that. I wanted to go, and I told Melissa, I was like, I'm going to be honest, I can't really justify $100 for a sermon illustration that I will never use again. But I wanted to get the big letters from Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to put busy on this side and lazy on the other, because that is how we would view somebody that slept 11 hours a day. Unless they had a medical condition that we had the doctor's note in our hand and we could see it, we would not believe that it's what it was. But we've spent our entire time. You think about farmers, everything used to be done by hand. And now they take and they do, it's a tractor, and they hop out and they do these things 10 times as fast. We now have cars that get us from point A to point B. Think about just communication in general. How long it used to take us to communicate something, to say something. But now we're in a place where we can text somebody and instantaneously we get a response back. Unless, we all have that one person that we are still waiting on that text, and it was a week ago. The event's already over. If they're sitting beside you in the room, don't nudge them, don't embarrass them. But it's one of those things, we all get that space. And I said this even in my prayer here a second ago. In today's world, busyness has become a badge of honor. We've come to this place to where being busy makes us better than other people. Being busy sets us up to where we're in a better space. And so we have our family, jobs, activities, we have a second job, we have a side hustle, and somewhere down the line, after all those things, we work Jesus into the equation. Somewhere down the line, we'll add that in. Maybe not all of you. Maybe it's just some of us that let the job and the other job and the third job. I remember when I first started at the Y, as the director there, And so it's, a little busier job than doing marketing 10 hours a week for them. And so when I stepped into this role, and people would still see me go out and do a few photos every now and then, and they'd be like, dude, are you insane? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, but I didn't know what else to do. It's all I had known. And it's been hard to kind of pull back from some of those things over the last year. But by the way, I don't know why God did not want me to have PowerPoint today. I've changed passwords, I've logged out, deleted programs, put them back on, but there's no PowerPoint today. So we're going to be in Matthew chapter 11. If you have a paper Bible, you can go ahead and do that. We're Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. That's where we're going to be. That's the verses we're going to sit in. If you've got the app you use on your phone, you can go there. And if you take notes somehow on your phone or you have paper, you can do that. But I'm going to try and repeat the things that I would normally put up there. Busyness is a badge of honor in today's society. I think I sent Gary a text, and Melissa texted me this morning. I got to get moving. I'm not going to get through this sermon. Melissa texted me this morning, and she was just like, I'm listening to this guy, and he's preaching your sermon. I said, no, I'm preaching his sermon. And she's like, what? She's like, I'm listening to the If Gathering. This guy is speaking at one of the biggest conferences in the country, and she's like, he's using everything you're about to say. I was like, I know. I took it from his book. And what's funny is we share sermons as pastors because we have 3 pastors in our network, and we all teach the same sermons. So we ship them around as we write them, especially if we're ahead of somebody. And one of the other pastors had sent me his, and when I started reading it, I'm like, he read the same book I did. This is the exact same sermon I'm writing. So, there is actually, at the end, I have one thing that Justin from the West Market campus said that really challenged me, and just some thoughts in this. But I want to encourage you, if you're taking notes, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. John Mark Comer, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. He also has a book that I used part of a few weeks ago called Live No Lies. I used part of that in my lying sermon. He is, I don't know. He's outside of Gary Schwenke. He's like the second most hippie person I kind of know. He's from Portland, and he's just that way. And that's not the only hippie joke you get about Gary today. So just wait. There's one coming later. All right, got to get to moving because I got an illustration. Got to cry later. We got to work all these things into the next 20 to 25 minutes. If you want to experience the life of Jesus, you have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. If you want to experience the life of Jesus, you have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. So you cannot say, I'm just so busy. I've got this job and I've got the second job. Well, I need a side hustle. My friends have a side hustle. They started selling Lululemon, so I went and started a photography business. And whatever the thing is for you, whatever you're grabbing, whatever you're doing, you've got these thoughts, you've got these things, you've got these pieces. And we're going, man, I want to look like Jesus. I've got a friend, people come to him all the time and be like, man, I love your kids. He's got 2 daughters, and he's like, I love your kids. I wish my kids were like that. And he's like, well, you had to parent them. It had to start way back here. It's not something you can just go now I want this. And so you can't say, I just want the life of Jesus. I want to live just like Jesus, but I'm adopting an entirely different lifestyle. So here's our verses. Luke chapter 11, 28 through 30. I'm going to take a breath and slow down. In a busyness sermon, I'm talking faster than I've ever spoken in my life, and I'm from Alabama, y'all. I can talk fast. So I also get excited too. This has been a great couple weeks for me prepping for this. All right, verses, Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. I want to read that one more time. And I just want us to sit for a minute. I want us to exhale. I know you've got something today. I've got small group tonight. I'm still trying to think through. I want to say Titus, but that's the last Bible. See, I don't even remember what Bible study we're doing, and now I'm stressed about that, and I've got so many things that I could be busy about. I got to get my kids from point A to point B, or I've got to do this, and I've got to get there. And I know we've all got the schedule today. We've all got something. But if we can take, for like I said, the next 15, 20 minutes now, and just exhale for 1 second. Let's just read those verses again. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This is Jesus talking. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I love how Eugene Peterson, he wrote the Message paraphrase. And he says this, and if you've got your little app on your phone, you can very quickly jump to the Message. But he just says, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Think about that. The unforced rhythms of grace. Most of us wouldn't even know where to start with that. And he's just saying, think about this, reflect on this, move through that space. He continues to say, just finishing out that, I won't lay anything heavy on you, heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. How many of us would love to be able to freely, lightly, to not feel the pressure, not feel the stress of so many things that go on? And this is an invitation, these words in Matthew 11, for all who are tired, the burned out, the stressed, those stuck behind their to-do list. He's saying, come get away. Jesus is speaking, come with me. Escape the stress, the busyness of this life, the hurry. Come walk with me. And he says, watch how I do it. Learn from me and do it with me. Ann Peterson, in her article, How Millennials Became the Burnout Generation, says, burnout isn't a place to visit and come back from. It's our permanent residence. Burnout isn't a place for us to visit and come back from. It's our permanent residence. Most of us in today's Western culture, in America here, we are sitting and we have made busyness an idol, and it is toxic. And it is ruining our culture. It's ruining our lives. It's ruining our faith. And I'm not saying that there's not a space that we should be lazy. I'm not saying that there's not going to be days that things might feel a touch hectic. But if most of us were really honest, we would be saying, every day feels that way. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. I come in, I write it all down on the list, and I'm just going, and like your eye starts twitching if you have to move something to the next day, and you're going, but I'm never going to get all this done. There's 400 things on this list. And for some of you, that number's not an exaggeration. Because you've got dreams. Some of y'all are like me, you're dreamers. And I mean, Melissa's like, Robert, you either got to do some of these website domains you've bought or you've got to release them back to GoDaddy. We cannot continue to hold every idea that comes at $20 a year. And it starts to add up. I mean, things are just there. And it's like, oh, I should build this website. I should start this podcast. I should do this thing here. I should have this here. I should be a part of this. I should go there. I should do this and things. And I just kind of am at a point where I'm going, I don't know. And you might be different than me. But statistics in society would say you're not. It would say that we're all sitting in the same place. Jesus' invitation is to take his yoke, which is kind of weird for us unless you grew up farming. Unless you grew up around a space, I mean, we've all seen Clydesdales and we understand. I mean, we've all seen oxes and we've seen a movie or something like that. But unless you've experienced what that does. And a lot of times we look, and if you think about it, we just go, oh, I saw an ox pulling the plow. Great. Jesus is throwing the yoke on me. And he's telling me to pull, and he's saying, put my yoke on you. Great. All the other yokes I've already wearing. Isn't that how most of us think about it? I've got all these things going on, all this life. And Jesus is saying, great, throw that on top of it. That's not at all how this goes. The yoke is a tool that Jesus is giving us, that he's referencing here. And he's wanting us to come in beside him. See, it's this yoke where we're walking beside him, and there's two, and we're here, and we're in this pace with him that we're going, and we're moving, and we're living. And he says, I'll teach you my ways. I'll teach you how to, in the agricultural term there, to plow the field, to work, to move through, to understand. In the spiritual term, it's I will teach you how to rest. I will teach you how to love. I'll teach you how to live my ways. I'll teach you how to follow my path. And it's in that moment that we take something that feels so burdensome and it goes, wait a second. If I didn't have to pull this all by myself, if I could rest in Jesus, if I could have someone that's helping me, that's setting this along the way, that's pulling this path along with me, that starts to change the thinking. That starts to maybe go, okay, should I give this a try? Have I come to a place that I can get into that space? And see, the easy yoke is possible, but we miss it. The secret involves living as Jesus lived, adopting his lifestyle. We can't just follow a couple of principles like loving our enemies, turning the other cheek, while living our lives like every other person on the planet. The hardest way to follow Jesus is to live like the world, living like everyone else, and just adding Jesus to the end when we have time, when we can. See, the hardest way for us to follow Jesus is to live exactly like everybody else around, do what the world says, be busy, be exhausted, take on all the characteristics, the traits, the sin list up there that we've seen in the video for these times, for these 5 weeks now. We see all these things and then just add Jesus in when we can. And the easiest way to follow Jesus is to radically alter your lifestyle and mirror Jesus. Not just one principle or another, but his whole life. I want to read that one more time. The easiest way to follow Jesus is to radically alter your lifestyle and mirror Jesus. Not just one principle or another, but his whole life. If you want to experience the life of Jesus, you have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. I said that earlier, but this is the key. If you want to experience the life of Jesus, then you have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. And the truth is, I think most of us want that life. We probably wouldn't show up here. It takes time out of your week. If you're busy, this is an hour you could get back. Plus drive time. You could sleep 30 more minutes maybe. You could then get up and do a little something, watch an extra episode of that favorite show you're binging on Netflix, or, whatever it is you have going on and what you're doing and where your space is and where your life is, you could sit into that space and you could lean into that moment and you could give this up. But by showing up here, most of us are saying, I at least have a small interest in doing this. I want to experience his joy, his peace, his promise of life to the full. But we aren't willing to adopt to his lifestyle, and we aren't willing to live our life. And one of the scariest reasons is because we know that his life leads to death. We understand that daily we have to take up the cross, die to self. It costs us something every day to follow Jesus. I've had friends this week, and again, I have absolutely hated joking. I have not. It's been hard on me with these sermons because I've had to kind of go through my mind. And somebody came with me the other day, and they were just like, "Hey, this last Sunday was super exciting." I was like, "It was super exciting." I'd do anything. I'm doing the best I can to be faithful and show up and teach, and I'm studying and I'm doing things. I haven't read 5 books in the last 5 years. I'm on books 5 and 6 this year. Just because I'm trying to do my best to be prepared to lead and love and care for on top of reading scripture and doing things, and I'm piecing things around because God's called me to some stuff, and I'm just trying to be obedient. And I think that's where most of you all are as well. And so when I step into something and my brain starts to drift and to shift, or that starts to well up inside of me, I'm doing my best to go, don't be stupid. Look like Jesus. Try and look like Jesus. And I don't win every day. I don't win every moment. But I see God working more and shifting and thinking, and I'm trying to align because I need to rest in him. I need to find peace in him, and I need to find hope in him. And so when Jesus does this, there is this hardness of having to give up this because we're scared because it's a cross and a death. But the reality is that also at the end of all of that is an empty tomb. There is a hope. There is a peace. There is a love through Christ who came, he lived, he died, he rose again. And the tomb sits empty because of his power over death and the grave. And we have the ability to take his yoke, that yoke, Not all the other leaders, not all the other thoughts and processes in the world, but the guy who came, beat death, came back and says, I will now walk beside you and teach you and journey with you. So what does Jesus offer those who are tired and weary? It's not a vacation. It's not a mattress to catch a nap. He offers us an easy yoke, an easier way of living. And Jesus knows that life is hard, but he doesn't offer us an escape. He offers us the equipment to accomplish the life. And that's the key. That's the thing. We feel like, man, if I could just get away, for a minute. But the thing is, we always come back to our problems. We always come back to the struggles that we have. And so some of us have been running for years, trying to escape it in a variety of ways. And let me just encourage you that just because you bury it down doesn't mean it's gone. And just because you outrun it doesn't mean it won't catch up eventually. And just because you slow down and open up to that part of life, it's time to slow down and open up to that part of life and let Jesus heal you. And remember, there's no healing in hiding. We've talked about this with Matt Chandler. You can't fight the devil in the dark. Matt Chandler's quote that I've said a couple of times. It's time to open up that pain and open up that emptiness and ask God to step in and slow life down. And I think that, I think busyness is ruining our lives, and it limits us and it challenges us in so many ways. And here's about the only way that I could really figure out how to do this for me. And so we're going to make a little tea this morning. And there's three glasses. I think just represents three ways that we kind of come in. I'm at the side here. These are clear. If these are uneven, there's some of y'all out there that are OCD that are going to need to come up here and even these glasses out, and I'm so sorry. And so, do I need to? Can everybody listen? Are they even enough that you can at least breathe for a minute? So, I think that most of us function in one of three ways. And I think that the vast majority, I think there's a lot of people in life that when we think about things and stepping into faith or whatever it is in life, and that's how we make tea. And we do. I'm busy. I'm in a hurry. I'm locked down. I have no time for anything. That's about all the time I have. And honestly, at that point in time, there might be a hint of flavor. But that's just hot water, and most of us prefer that cold. And then there's this other way, and just for the sake of time, I need to do this, sorry. There's this other space. And, when you drop the tea in and you let it sit for a few minutes, and you bounce it around some, and the water starts to change. And, and for all intents and purposes, when we start to do this here and we let the tea, and you start to compare it, you can definitely tell a difference. That could, the way, it's tea. Really, Ted Lasso had it right. It's just hot brown garbage water. It's tea, so it all tastes horrible. But at this point in time, if you grabbed this, you would probably think, if you just picked up a glass of tea and go, this is a good glass of tea. Until you took a sip. Until you realized it had shown up to church 52 weeks a year. It attended a small group. It served occasionally in a children's ministry or student ministry or led worship every now and then. You opened the front door. Like you were invested at the building. But the only time the Bible got open, the only time you thought about living like Jesus, the only time you thought about sacrificing, about going, maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to step back, came when you were here, and then the moment you got out. And see, it looks like everything else. But then you start to go over here, and you start to see. And I was listening to something this week, and they were talking about steeping, and God just put this into my heart. And I thought, man, what a great way. But see, the reality is, for us to rest in Christ, we have to abide in him. See, we get the illustration, the crying, all at one time right here. It works. We have to steep in the life of Jesus, into his word, into prayer. And regardless of whether you should be drinking coffee instead of tea, which you should be, come on, people. Let's get, it's 2023. We should know better by now. You know, he says in John 15 that I'm the vine, you're the branch. If you abide in me, you bear much fruit. And I love that analogy because a grapevine that's set, a vineyard, you never see the grapes laying across the ground. It requires a trellis. It requires working through the trellis for the grapes to be up for them to live. That's the exact same thing in your life. Christ is our trellis that holds us up, that keeps our vines, our branches off the ground. And when we sit and we abide in him and we think for a minute, well, these all look the same. But as someone steeps, and you know that person, you know somebody that impacts your life, that you sit in and you do. What I'm about to say isn't easy for me, and it's not something I'm proud of, but good gracious, I've been sharing stupid stories. Hope I can get all these out. Hopefully God doesn't remind me of other stupid things I do, that I can just continue to share all my blunders. But I've really tried to not have to share this, and this sermon has not helped that. And so I'm just going to be really, really, really transparent with you guys here. I don't know that there is anybody in this room that is busier than me. But if you're busy, I promise my life is right there with you. I lead 2 organizations. I'm the CEO at the YMCA here in town. Again, it's not Nashville, but it's a lot. It's a full grind every day. I lead here, and I'm thankful for people. I'm looking around, I see staff and deacons and stuff, and a lot of volunteers that make this life a lot easier here. But I'm a husband to a wife that deserves way more from me than she gets. A father to 3 boys that I would say the same thing about. They deserve way more of me than they get. I'm a son. I'm also a father to a 4th child. It's a 160-pound Alaskan Malamute, but we all love our fur babies, and so there we go. I'm a son to a mother who I love dearly. I'm a brother to 2 sisters who have great husbands, children of their own, and one even has a grandchild, and a slew of friends that have loved and cared for me more than I deserve. As I've tried to figure out some of these things, and I run like crazy. I mean, I do. I mean, you can ask Melissa, and if you need me to show it to you, I can show you my GoDaddy account after the service. But it's insane. I had a couple of podcasts going that I had to kind of step away from because, honestly, I just couldn't find time anymore between 2 jobs and this. And I had people call me, still want me to do photography, and I'm having to go. I just can't do it anymore. And I'm having to say no to some things. And I've decided that busy is the antonym of honoring Christ, at least honoring Christ in my life. And I have to find a way to love and care for the people that I've listed. The family that stood beside me when I thought that being busy and creating more and doing more was the answer. And I know that I've let some of you down. And I know that there's people who aren't sitting in here today because I haven't had the bandwidth to care for them. And I've tried to have the coffees, and I've tried to have the meetings, and I've tried to get to the space, and I just can't. And I'm sorry. And if you're in that list that you've needed me and I haven't been there, I'm so sorry. And I'm trying to rectify and fix and all the things that come with that. But this is where we are. I think it's where we are as a society. I think it's where we are as a culture. And you may not feel that way, but it's definitely how I feel. And so what do? how do you kind of resolve this? How do you fix busyness? And I've spent a lot of time, and the best answer I can give you is my hippie friend Gary. Shoes and modern amenities don't mean a ton to him. He just, like, literally, I mean, he rests as well as anybody I know. He's one of the people he would say I haven't, because he knows the decision I made, but he's one of the people I think I've let down this year. But in that, he rests well. He cares about this. It's impacting my life and is challenging me. And I think he's a great person to talk to. With that, as the band comes up, I do actually have 4 serious things to tell you that I think can help, that I read in John Mark Comer's book, that I can share with you. And then I want to share with you this one thought that my friend Justin said. It's 4 things that you can do, that you can have in your life, that you can, that I think can help you resolve busyness. The first is solace and solitude. And you just have to find a space and a way to get, some of that's quiet, some of that's internal, some of that's external. Some of that you need to find a way to cut off the noise in your head. So that's me. I don't mind the noise out here. That's all fine and good, unless you're like cracking your fingers or chewing cereal. Those things are like nutso to me, like really bothers. And I need a TV on to even be in the same room as you. But solace and solitude, you just need to find some time away. I don't know if this is an Aaron Rodgers 4-day dark experience type of thing or what. If you're a football fan, you understand that. If you're not, you have no clue what I'm talking about. But the second is Sabbath. This past week, I sat with one of my employees, and I told him I was concerned about another employee because he's working 7 days a week. And I said, look, I don't know if, now I told both of these guys this. I met with one and then met with both of them together. And I told them both the same thing. Look, I don't know how important the Bible is to you. I don't know if it's something you base your life on, but it is me. And I can't challenge myself to live a certain way, a certain day, a certain thing, and not think that God's going to use that same encouragement and journey in your life. So I said, I'm not trying to take money away from you. Unfortunately, I can't extend your hours, but I feel like you need a day off. I feel like you need a day for your body, your soul, your mind, your spirit to rest. And he said, thank you. And said, I would love to take this day here. And I said, perfect, that's the day we needed. And we just sat there and we talked a few minutes. And he said, I just feel so much more at peace being able to do this now. Guys, you just can't. You can't take on. God himself worked 6 and gave 1. And if we want to argue the beginning of creation and stuff, we can do that later. But I want to need coffee and a lot more time. But God in Scripture says, I worked 6 and I rested 1. And somehow we think as humans, as people, as flawed, that we can do this on our own. The last 2 are simplicity. I joke about Gary, but it's something he and I talk about a lot, just kind of getting down. So we talking about it at our house last night. A couple of our boys were like, yeah. I mean, like literally, I preach in like 4 hoodies. I have like 3 pair of jeans, and I just don't, I don't need a lot else. I just go like, I need a few t-shirts for the summer. A couple friends hooked me up with some from their businesses, and I like supporting them. So like, you may see a Riv t-shirt up here a lot from my buddy who owns a coffee shop in Oregon. And you may see these things that are around because I just don't need a lot of stuff. I'm going to probably support the mission trip a lot from the shirt that I bought to help support them going to Honduras and doing these things and being a part of this. And like, I just don't, like, I just need to be more simple. Our house is so full of stuff that we don't even use. And I just don't understand. And so for so long before market went crazy, we would always go, well, we filled this house, let's buy a bigger one and fill that one. And we get storage units and we get things, and I just think it's there. And 4th thing is slowing. Just slowing down. My friend Justin, I told you, said this, and he's a pastor at the West Market campus, and I just thought this was beautiful, and this is how I'm going to close this out and pray. It says, imagine if our hurting and divided world there was a loving, caring, and united church walking slowly enough to engage with those who are far from God. Just think about it. To show the love of God who stepped out of heaven, came to earth as a perfect and sinless Jesus, who day after day walked towards the cross to give his life for you. If you're following Jesus, guess where you're walking? You're walking to lay down your life for something so much more important. What if we became a church, a family, a community that walks slow enough to experience Jesus fully so that we can love people deeply? Just what if? Some of you this week, you stepped against the curse of busyness and made a choice. Some of y'all do it every week, by the way, and I don't want that to go unnoticed as well. Some of y'all show up here early every week. Thank you. Some of you all did these things. And I just believe that that's what God wants from us. I think he wants us to be a church that moves just slow enough, that's willing to slow down to hear the story. Hey, how are you doing? And actually care what's on the other side of the conversation. God, we love you. And I know I say that, and I know that my friends say that. But God, we say it in such a running, racing pace. We say it in such a world that we're so crazy and busy and thoughtful that we say it just out of like just the normality of our day. It's something that we do, and then we try and find a way to work you in when the moment is available, or if something's really bad, or maybe if something like beyond good, something we couldn't even possibly imagine happens, we'll go, cool, God did something. And like we're surprised or we're shocked that you were still around and working and doing in our life. And so, God, I don't know what the step each of my friends needs to take today. I don't know if they need some quiet. I don't know if they need to take a Sabbath, a day that they step away from their work, that they step away from what they do as a vocation, and they just rest in you. They worship, they pray, they take time to reflect, they go on a hike, they take a drive. It's just something that they experience you inside of, and they sit and they rest with you. I don't know what they need to make simple in their life. But God, I just trust and pray that just like you're working in me, that you're working in them, and that all of us see a step, a challenge, a way that we can ruthlessly eliminate the hurry, the busy,